Okay, so today we're going to talk about something that's kind of a quiet revolution in AI, but a revolution nonetheless. It's this new tool from Google, and it might just change everything about how an AI understands our stuff, our private information. And it does it by tackling a problem that, let's be honest, has been a real headache for developers for years. Seriously, just take a second and imagine this. What if you had an AI that could instantly search, well, everything you've ever written? I mean, finding that one specific answer buried deep in your company's wikis or your project notes or even your entire code repository. All of your knowledge right at your fingertips, searchable in just seconds. How cool would that be? So, for years, right, building a system like that has been, well, a huge challenge. We're talking specialized teams, super expensive infrastructure, and months, literally months of work. It was an awesome idea, for sure, but for most of us, it was just completely out of reach. And this really gets to the heart of what I call the private data problem. You see, even these incredibly powerful models like Gemini have this one massive blind spot. They know a ton about the public internet, right? But they know absolutely nothing about your world, your private docs, your specific data. To the AI, it's like it doesn't even exist. It's totally invisible. Now, the industry came up with a solution for this, and it has a fancy name: Retrieval Augmented Generation, or, RAG. The best way to think about RAG is like giving an AI an open book test. So instead of making it answer questions from memory, you're literally handing it the textbook, your documents, and telling it to find the answer right there. It grounds the AI's answers in your facts. But, and this is a big but, here's the catch. Actually building one of these RAG pipelines yourself has been for a long time a total engineering nightmare. I mean, look at this list. You've got to handle file parsing, figure out the best way to chunk up your data, generate these things called embeddings, a fancy way of turning words into numbers. Then you have to set up and manage a whole separate vector database, build retrieval systems. Each one of these steps is a massive project on its own. It's just a huge barrier for anyone trying to get started. So you look at all that complexity and you think, how on earth do you solve that? Well, this is where Google has done something pretty groundbreaking, actually. So Google looked at that whole mess, that entire engineering nightmare we just talked about, and they basically just turned it into a single API call. That's it. They automated the entire thing, hiding all that crazy complexity behind one simple, elegant call. And that is the core of the Gemini File Search Tool. It's a fully managed RAG system, basically handed to you on a silver platter. And I mean, this table just says it all, doesn't it? Look at the difference. Instead of high complexity, you get one API call. Instead of having to manually configure your chunking strategy, it's automatically optimized for you. But honestly, the real game changer here, look at the time to production. It goes from weeks, maybe even months, down to just hours or a couple of days. That is insane. Okay, so what does this super simple path actually look like? If you're a developer, what do you actually do? It really just boils down to 3 steps. Seriously. 1, you create a file search store. Think of it like your personal knowledge base. 2, you upload your files. And 3, you just query it with the normal Gemini API. That's it. That's the whole thing. Now, remember that 6-step engineering headache from before? Yeah, this is a complete night and day difference. All right, so it's simpler, it's way faster, but there's another piece to this puzzle that is just as disruptive, if not more so, and that's the price. The way they've priced this completely flips the economics of RAG on its head. Okay, so let's look at a traditional RAG setup. You've got all these ongoing costs, right? You're paying monthly fees for your vector database, you're paying every time you have to generate an embedding for a query, and then there's the big one, the infrastructure overhead, which can be huge. Now with file search, the storage, the query time embeddings, the infrastructure, it's all zero, gone. So you're probably thinking, what's the catch? What do you actually pay for? Get this, you pay a tiny one-time fee of 15 cents. 15 cents to index 1 million tokens of your data. To put that in perspective, that's about the size of the entire book, The Great Gatsby. And after that one-time indexing fee, retrieving that information is basically free. This makes the cost so predictable and unbelievably affordable, especially if you're building something that gets a lot of queries. So let's think about this. When you take a technology that was once super complex and expensive, and you make it this simple and this affordable, what does that actually unlock? What can we start building now? Well, for developers, the impact is pretty much immediate. Just imagine being able to search through thousands of pages of technical docs or API references instantly. There was this one early adopter, Phaser Studio, and they said that ideas that used to take them days to prototype, they can now test in a matter of minutes. That's not just an improvement, that's a massive acceleration. And it's not just for devs. For researchers, this is an incredible tool for synthesis. You could feed it hundreds of academic papers and just ask questions, or do a comparative analysis across a bunch of different reports. You could even query super long, complex medical records. In fact, this is the kind of tech that's powering specialized models like Google's Gemini. And then you've got businesses and enterprises. Here, the applications are pretty much endless. You can finally create those internal knowledge bases that actually work, or build customer support chatbots that are grounded in your product manuals so they actually know what they're talking about. You could even accelerate legal research by just dumping in thousands of contracts and asking questions. The possibilities are huge. So, when you put all of this together, the simplicity, the speed, the price, it's clearly more than just another tool. This really feels like a fundamental shift in what it takes to build smart, context-aware AI applications. And I think this quote just nails it perfectly. For so long, the ability to build an AI that could genuinely understand your private data was locked away behind this massive wall of complexity and cost. And with file search, Google has just taken a sledgehammer to that wall. So the question really isn't, how do we build this anymore? The technology is here, it's accessible. The real question, the one for all of us to think about, is now that this barrier has been completely knocked down, what are you gonna build?
If this helped you tighten up your app, hit that like button, share this video with another developer, and subscribe to The Curious Dev for more deep dive tutorials like this.